Okay.
Okay. We're recording. Okay.
All right.
Welcome. Let's see.
Hello.
Welcome. Good. Welcome to Sunshine and Transparency. Now, we haven't seen each other in 50 years. Last time I saw you was 19.
Well, actually, we did see you once in about 40 years ago. You forgot, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Still a long time. Yeah.
Long time. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Jetley is a philosophy doctor. Our topic today is there a God? We're gonna take advantage of him being here. We're gonna ask him some questions and try to get a more holistic understanding of is there a God? And we welcome you today. Welcome to Sunshine and Transparency. Now,
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you having me on your show, and all the best wishes to all your viewers here too.
okay, well, many of them I've sent it to a lot of William and Mary people, so
Oh gosh.
you may get some people that actually know about it. Now, my background is not real. My office is such a mess. It doesn't mean I'm a rich guy. I just like the scenery. It sets me at ease. That's why I did it. Okay, Dr. Sharma, to get started, there's been much discussion about the empirical world we're in, how everything's cause and effect. And I want to get your thoughts about how there can be a spiritual world and an empirical world, how the two can exist together. And specifically, does the empirical world, does cause and effect eliminate the existence of God, as many atheists would argue that it would? And so let's just get started there and take it wherever you want to go, Arun. You're welcome to be here, but let's start talking about that.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show. And like I said, I'll be very happy to talk about this. This is something that is not novel to me. My PhD is in philosophy. It's more specifically on phenomenology and neo-Marxism. Philosophers like Heidegger, who is a phenomenologist, Sartre, who is a phenomenologist, and Adorno and Marcuse, who are neo-Marxists. So anyway, this is a very interesting topic, and it's something that everybody's interested in. Now, there is one quick thing I want to say, make life simple for all of us. Epistemology is known as the theory of knowledge, and what we want to
tell them what epistemology is, if you would.
Epistemology is a branch of philosophy that is, in vernacular, we call it theory of knowledge. Okay, that's what epistemology is, theory of knowledge. So in essence, whenever you're making a certain claim, we want to go into the background and say, what is your epistemology that makes you make a certain claim? Okay, so that's what it is. What's the theory of knowledge? There was a very famous American salesman, called him the greatest American philosopher. His name was Napoleon Hill. And he used to say, if somebody makes a claim on you, you ask them a 4-word question. And that is, how do you know? Okay, so that's what epistemology is. How do you know? Do you know because it's written in some book? Do you know because some guy told you? Or is there anything more into how do you know? So anyway, so this question about God, and Tony has done some great research into this last 30,000 years at least or more, and how the concept of something higher than human comes into our thinking, into our mode of thought. And we are all of a sudden realize the concept of humility. Look, I come, I live, I die, I'm done. The universe keeps on for millions and billions of years. So where do I fit in as very insignificant, in a way, a very insignificant being on this universe for a little while? I'm born, I get old, I enjoy it. When I'm young, I think I'll never die. I think I own the world, and then I get older and die. So, I mean, this is, what does that mean to my existence? So these are the themes as to, and Tony has pointed out that how far back into human history would this concept have come to somebody's mind and say, look, there's something superior to me who makes me, makes the universe, and that is God. So this is.
So, Doctor, you're saying that the feeling of humility of humility is important to
Yeah.
the development of the belief in a power greater than man.
Exactly. Humility is more like a moral term. What I would say is the finitude of human existence is more important. There's infinite, and our existence is just nothing but a finitude, one dull moment in billions of years. So that's what makes us wonder what the infinite is. That's the concept of God, the infinite. So that is probably a really old theme. Now, the question that,
let me ask you before you go on, how can we, being finite, how can we even understand the infinite?
Okay. Once again, if you go back into epistemology, theory of knowledge, the concept of understanding is not a simple one. Okay. What do you understand? For instance, if I'm a tennis coach, which I am, and I explain to you how to hit a forehand, and you said, do you understand? You said, I understand. But you can't hit one ball over the net. So do you really understand? No, you don't. But you understood what I told you. So this is the theme of understanding that we must be clear of. What do you really mean by understand? Okay. Yeah, I have some kind of knowledge of it, but is how good is that knowledge? So anyway, so the thing here is that the human being, the finitude of human being has this in us, that we have proclivity to try to understand what this being is. So what is your question is that is infinite, we're finite. So how do we bridge the gap between our finitude and the concept of infinity that we have? Okay, my answer is sort of like this. Okay, it's like we can imagine things. There was a great Greek philosopher named Parmenides who said that universe cannot have motion. It is all static. There's no two beings in this world. There's only one being. Tony, you, me, and everybody else. We're just one. We have this illusion, what do you call it, of multifaceted or multifarious universe. And Parmenides, in his mythological sense, is taken over to the goddess. And she explains to him how this is just an illusion, basically. So this is just to bring home the point that, look, we can have certain amount of knowledge of what the infinite is, but we're not. It's sort of like infinity is something that we can. I'll give you another example. For instance, like you have Stephen Curry, the best free throw shooter, the best basketball player in the world, the greatest shooter of all time. But do you know how bad he is? He only shoots 40% of his three-pointers. So, but what is, when he's practicing for 10, 12 hours a day, which he does, he's trying to go 100% in. But that translates to 40% of real practice. He said Novak Djokovic was #1 player in the world. In the year he was #1%, he lost 46% of the points that he played. Only won 54%. So see, but the thing is that when he is practicing, he's assuming that he's going to be perfect, knowing fully well that that's never going to happen. So this is what I mean by what kind of a knowledge we have about the perfection, infinity being perfection. Novak Djokovic practicing 10 hours a day to say, I'm going to win 100% of the points. Will translate only to 54%. So
you're saying we have to know how to fail to succeed?
Yeah, that's part of it, definitely. The bigger, yeah, that's so correct. The point is this, that we understand our finitude very well. Novak Djokovic is not a fool. He knows he's only going to win 54% of the points, despite the fact he's the best player in the world. So what happens is we know that, and yet we have a notion in our mind of perfection that we strive for. So that is the proof, if you want, the rationalism of Parmenides that got lost in the Western philosophy after Aristotle. And I think he was such a great philosopher, and Plato for that instance, for that matter as well. So your question is, how do we connect with infinity when we are finite? Okay, so we connect through our intellect, if you want to put it this way. So, it's our intellect that we have a notion of that. It's a rationalist thought. It's not empiricism. Now, in philosophy, there are two schools of thought, technically. One is called rationalism. The other is called empiricism. And there's been a 3,000-year fight amongst those two schools. Now, rationalism assumes that you can have knowledge through rationality. Empiricism says, no, only sense perception is real. You see what I'm saying? And this was, Immanuel Kant tried to solve this problem, but I don't think he was successful either. So the point I'm making is there is a connection between infinity and our finitude through our own intellect, through our own existence. We recognize our finitude, but we also recognize our understanding of infinity at a certain level. That's the way I relate to it.
We can conceptualize it.
Conceptualize, exactly.
Okay.
You
And
see,
let's go on a minute and let me ask you, because you're very aware of different religions, and many religions today anthropomorphize. That means they put human qualities into God,
right.
and others don't. And I want you to talk, because you come from India. Your father, Dr. Sharman, was a great philosopher. And I want you to talk about your heritage in India and your view and your belief in God, and then maybe contrast it with the others, if you could.
Thanks for giving me the chance. First of all, let me tell you that my PhD was in neo-Marxism and phenomenology, entirely a Western theme. I didn't have one quote from any Indian philosophy in my 300-page dissertation, but I acquired a lot of that knowledge way afterwards, especially as a tennis coach. I got into yoga, and then I got into Indian philosophy and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Now, let me tell you, if you want to put things in a nutshell, it's sort of like this. So, for instance, philosophy is divided into philosophical traditions, the Eastern and the Western. The Western philosophy is like the Greek philosophy, Western religions, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Mind you, Islam is considered Western philosophy, not an Eastern philosophy. All these are Western. The Eastern is like Buddhism, Hinduism. Buddhism is actually part of Hinduism. Confucianism, Taoism. They have a different set of. They have a different platform, if you want to put it. Like one is Apple platform, the other one is Samsung platform, something like that, if you want to put it this way. And the main difference is this, okay? But in a nutshell, I'm going to put it this way. See, in the Western philosophy, the religion is anthropomized a lot more, where God is seen as some kind of guy sitting in a throne with a white beard or something. I'm exaggerating, but there's a personalized God, okay? And that God, for instance, in Christianity, takes the form of Jesus Christ as the Son of God, or in Islam, Muhammad as a prophet of God. And the whole concept of religion has to revolve around either Christ or Muhammad, or in Judaism, it goes a little more than that, Moses and the other prophets that came. Okay, now the Eastern theme is not quite like that, okay? So they have a notion of a personalized God as well, but that is superseded by a concept, what we call an intrinsic God. So the Western God is a transcendent God. You worship the Lord Jesus or Muhammad or whatever, and you are separate from that. Now, in the Eastern tradition, the concept of God is very similar. However, it is also a concept that is intrinsic, that is immanent. God is immanent, not just transcendent, but immanent. Now, I have mentioned this to Tony before. This concept did exist in Christianity, because in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus Christ said, the kingdom of God is within you. So this immanence is there in Christianity, but it's never been emphasized and always been nullified, because my feeling is that since the Catholic Church got a hold of it, they didn't want any immanence, because they wanted authority to be extrinsic to God, to Christianity, to basically to Catholic Church. So
are you saying that God is within us, not external?
No, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. Okay, because in a real God, the subject and the object meet. So you have a conception of external God. Now, vast majority of the Hindus are like Christians and Muslims. They do have a concept of God, which they call Ishvara, this personalized God. However, you don't have to have that. That Ishvara is reliant upon the impersonal God. So there's a lot of mixture. Like even in Islam, they have a concept that God is formless. But see, the main difference is that let me put it this way: there's a concept of God in Hinduism. In Buddhism, they have concept of nothingness, shunya, because the zero was discovered. But zero to them is God. That nothingness is everything. That zero is infinity. So that's the concept of God that they have. So whereas in Hinduism, there's a God that is immanent. There's a God that is transcendent. You can choose whichever field you like to worship God. You can be. See, a Hindu, one of our friends' daughters used to go to school at Case Western Reserve. She didn't find a Hindu temple, so she used to go to church every day, every week, every Sunday. So the priest asked her, "Are you a Christian?" She said, "No." "Do you want to convert?" He said, "No, I don't convert. I come because you said this is the house of God, so come and worship here." It's all the same to me, whether it's Christ or Krishna or whatever. So to her, it was not a problem because her concept was the immanence of God projected as transcendent God. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense to you or not. That's what it is.
So, but primarily, the Hinduist relies on an intrinsic God primarily.
I would not say that because a lot of the Hindus just go and worship God, like the gods and goddesses. We're like the Greeks, like you, Tony. We have, if you want to do really well in an exam, you go worship Goddess Saraswati for 2 hours. Goddess, please get me smart enough to have the knowledge to pass my exam. If you want to become really wealthy, you go worship Goddess Lakshmi. So if you want to succeed in a war, you go worship another goddess. So always the goddess you're worshiping at. Kali. So yeah. So that's what it is.
So Hinduism has variations of God.
Yes. No. See. Basically they're saying that look, God is an infinite entity, but the only way being humans, we can't conceive that, so we make God into our human form, and we make her into this goddess. We make her into this goddess or that goddess or God, this one or that one. So that is, but that is not unreal. That is real as well. But the reality is actually all beyond of all of that. So that's what it is. So the concept of God has never been refuted by science. It has been refuted only by an Aristotelian vision of scientism. Aristotelian vision of logic was true or false, and that's the only type of logic. But we know through artificial intelligence that's only one type of logic. Artificial intelligence says any statement could have infinite possibilities. So this is the whole concept. In Hinduism, God can have infinite incarnations. He's not only he can come to Middle East as Jesus Christ or Muhammad. He can come to an African tribe as some other prophet. He can come to India as another prophet, and it can take many millions of births to help whatever society he needs to help. So that's the difference.
Now, it's very interesting. Now, the moral code that a society of say Hinduists believe by or go by usually comes from the creator, same as Sharia law for the Muslims, Judeo-Christian concepts come, the basic fundamental laws, not of course the expansions we have to law, which is just an endless amount of regs and rules and everything, but they come from moral beliefs that are related to the God.
Yeah.
Similarities, like thou shalt not kill. Do you see those kind of similarities in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in Muslim? What do you see? Are they similar? How are they different too?
Well, similarity, for instance, the basic concept of Hinduism is when there's evil on God, God sends his messenger. And Jesus Christ is easily a part of Hinduism, if you want it, as an incarnation of God who came to save the earth. They have no problem with that. A lot of Hindus will worship Jesus Christ too. The only issue that they had was that you claim that Jesus is the only guy who ever did that. This is the only issue that they have with that. So moral code, yes. The moral code in, say, Hinduism and Buddhism is not presented as the commandments, like the 10 Commandments. It is presented as a revelation by God to you that stands in front of you. It is your personal approach, whether you accept it or don't accept it. This is now not thrown as a commandment. So because theory of karma is the main issue there. If you create bad karma, you're going to get bad results. If you create good karma, you get good results. So that's the most important thing in the literature. It's just not. So what happens is the concept of evil is different. This is maybe I should point this out. For instance, we have a concept of good and evil in Christianity, which actually was borrowed from Zoroastrianism. That's why Nietzsche wrote the book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He was a Persian founder of the Persian religion of Zoroastrianism. From there, and thence it comes to Christianity. Anyway, but the concept of good and evil is a little bit different in Hinduism. You would not call somebody evil, you'd call him ignorant. So the difference is between knowledgeable person and an ignorant person. That's what it is. And the second, at another level, the fight is between a person whose ego is so elevated that he forgets that he can make mistakes, and his ego transcends his actions. So those are the two things that are there in Christianity as well, but they're in a different form. That's all it is. There's no commandments to it. There's nothing like if you don't obey these commandments, you're not born in hell. There's no such concept.
But in karma, if you act badly, for lack of another word to describe it,
yeah,
it comes back to bite you, right?
It comes back to bite you. It comes back to bite you. Yeah.
So there must be some concept of what badly is.
Yes.
In other words, like you take the Christian rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself.
Yeah.
Or,
that is, yeah.
Does that apply?
Absolutely. But it applies in a Parmenidean way more so, because the other is you. You don't know that. This is your ignorance. Tony, you don't know that you're Arun. That's your ignorance. You are Arun. I don't know that I'm Tony. That's my ignorance. You and I are one, separated by this material world. In the spiritual world, we are one. That's the way they're presented. But yes, the main theme is still the same. That you do not hurt people. And that's why, see, in Hinduism, it goes to the animals. That's why majority of Hindus are vegetarians. They don't want to hurt the animals. So that's part of the deal. And so that's why, yeah. No, I would say, go ahead.
Excuse me. But I was just going to ask, how about Buddhism?
Okay, Buddhism is nothing but Hinduism. Buddha, his name was Siddhartha. He was born as a prince in an Indian family, and he decided to give everything up and become a monk. And he becomes a monk. He leaves his wife and his child in the palace, and he wanders around for 30 years until he finds enlightenment in a place called Bodh Gaya, which is in northwestern India, northeastern India rather. So he attains enlightenment under a tree. And that's when he's called the Buddha. Buddha is not his name. It's like Christ is not his name. Jesus is his name. Christ is his title, right? He was a Christ. Similarly, Gautama Siddhartha was his name. Buddha is his title. After he gets enlightenment, then he's called the Buddha at that point. So it all starts in India and goes. So Buddhism is.
What year did that happen?
Okay, Buddha died 500 BC.
500 BC.
Yes.
500 years before Christ.
Right. And incidentally, people may or may not know this, the Christian tradition of celibacy, it comes from Buddhism, because there's no concept of celibacy in the Western world until these Christians get it, but it comes directly from Buddhism. Buddhist priests were supposed to be celibate. They were not allowed to marry. This happened 500 years before Christ. So I think this is the idea that somehow crept in through Buddhism. It could be independently discovered, but I doubt it. The world was very, did you know that in Xerxes' army that fought the Greeks, there were 40,000 Indian soldiers. They had connection. So it's not like they were unconnected with each other. So anyway, that's what it is.
In Persia. Huh.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
okay, so they're dating and what about, and of course uh Islam didn't come around till what year? 400 or 500?
630 B after AD. AD.
Yeah.
630 AD,
So
yeah.
that's sort of the new one, and that one has gotten extremely popular. I think it's catching up on Christians. I think Christians are a little bit over 2 billion. I think Muslims are about 1.9.
Yeah. They're catching up, but I don't think they'll catch up because the Muslims have become very fundamentalist. See, the Christianity got over that bullshit. When we got the scientific revolution, they got rid of the flat earth and all this stuff. They said, look, epistemology, you can't say what earth is unless you know. How do you know? You don't, how do you know? Napoleon Hill. So when they found out that's more important, how do you know it's more important than what was written in the Bible? Then we have Renaissance. The Muslims have not reached that stage yet, unfortunately. You want to ask what the truth is, they go to the goddamn Quran. It's not how do you know? How do you know? I know because the Quran said it, but that doesn't work. So that's my take on this whole.
Do you think and people, I know I've had this impression for quite a while that Muslims are fatalistic. And I've heard a Muslim say, I had a friend that rode in a bus in a Muslim country, and the driver said, he said to the driver, you may drive off the road, be careful, it's a mountain. He said, well, God's will. And he said, stop the bus, I'm getting off.
They call it inshallah. God's will. It's called inshallah. Inshallah.
And in other words, they're not responsible directly for their act. And it seems to a lot of people it's fatalistic. And that's sort of not consistent with Christianity. And Christians believe they're free to choose, and they can choose good or evil. A Muslim is more fatalistic. What do you think about that? And then
that's an extremely important question too, Tony. To me, it appears like that. Yeah, the inshallah is one of the most commonly used word in the Muslims. What's going to happen to you is that inshallah this will happen. Whatever inshallah means God willing. Okay, God willing, inshallah, God willing. So this is a very common theme amongst them. But see, once again, to me that is not the biggest problem of Islam. Okay, biggest problem of Islam, because people believe what they believe. Even a lot of Christians are fatalistic, but it's how you interpret the Bible or the Quran. So okay, so does that mean the Muslim doesn't give a shit about whatever he does all the time? No, they care. They know that there's a result there, so that it would be incorrect to assume that they act like they're not going to care about dying or anything like that. Of course, that thought helps them create suicide bombers. Though I can see where you're coming from. So that is true. But generally speaking, Muslim people are just like you and I have one of my cousins who's married to a Muslim too. They're not much different in their normal state of affairs of day than you and I. They perfectly believe that in karma, basically, that if I study hard, I'll become.
Don't believe those suicide bombers don't believe they're, or do they? Do they believe they're going to go to heaven and have
72 virgins?
Do they believe that?
Yeah. See, it all depends. See, what happens is that
crazy.
Yeah, this is the more fanatic one, or the uneducated Muslims. Yeah, and vast majority of them are uneducated, and they don't believe this is part. And this is to me, Tony, this is the biggest problem. These uneducated Muslims, they go to, instead of schools, even in India, there's 100,000 madrasas, Muslim schools, which India allows, as freedom of religion. They teach them all kinds of bullshit, how to hate Hindus, how to hate Jews. The most hated people in Islam are Hindus and Jews. Third are Christians. They're Christians. You guys are third on the list. You're the least hated, actually, of all the others, because they believe in the Bible too. The Muslims believe in the Bible, so they believe in Christ.
Well, the Quran criticizes Christianity quite a bit.
Oh yeah, but basically they consider that you'll never see a Muslim criticizing Jesus Christ. Never.
Was that the biggest problem with Muslims? You said there was a biggest problem.
The biggest problem is this, that they live in a 6th century theological mindset, and they think that the concept of reality to them is that, like Napoleon Hill. Well, how do you know? They only know it because Quran said it. That's not a very valid proof, you know. But their proof is only once Quran says it. That's the only proof they need, and that is.
Hold on, I've got a dog barking. I got to close the door. Keep talking about the Quran.
Yeah. So this is the problem. Is that the brainwashing of the youth in a lot of Islamic countries and Islamic schools, the brainwashing starts at a very young age, and the children are brought up to hate the Hindus, to hate the Jews, and to a lesser degree hate the Christians. So that's part of their upbringing, you know, like that's a very important part that we all ignore. You know, I'm telling you, like being a tennis coach, if somebody has got it's a forehand or a backhand in a certain way, I say, look, your forehand is not correct because of the laws of physics. I'm going to change your grip. You're going to hit the forehand this way. But you know how long will it take me to change his grip? 2 years maybe, because his muscle memory was not accustomed to knowing full well that this is incorrect. You're not change. And in 99% of the cases, I don't even change them. It's not worth it. You know, so that's what I'm saying. You have a mindset thinking in one way, and for you to think another way, you have to take a logical theory and say, look, this logical theory telling me that what I'm thinking is wrong, so I want to go change this, but I won't. It's like a person who smokes, a chain smoker. He knows it's bad for him, but he can't quit. So that it's the same thing here. See, it's like
Mitchell.
It's habitual. We discount this. There's one thing that Aristotle was very good at. Although I criticize Aristotle a lot, he understood this part very well. You know, the habits make everything. You know, so that's what I think. So there's a real danger to our society, Tony, unless Islam gets reformed. And now, of all the people in the world, the new Saudi prince MBS, he's reforming Islam like nobody has ever done before. Nobody, but he has to be careful. He can't come out and say he's anti-Islamic or they'll kill him, right? So he is very smart. He's doing little by little. He's giving women the education, women the right to drive for the first time, and he's reserving seats for women in universities, medical colleges, and so on. So he's making a move, you know. So Islam is finally making a move that Christianity made about 500 years ago. So that's yeah. So anyway, I'm hopeful. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist.
So basically, back just to the elemental question, they all believe in a power greater than man.
Exactly.
And you're talking literally 80-some% of the 7.8 billion people on the planet. So there's been a lot of criticism in America recently. We're veering away from Christianity. We're going into church attendances are down.
Yeah.
The reliance on religion, the humility, the feeling of humility is dissipating. People are getting, we have arguably more women today are graduating from PhDs and programs than men, which wasn't the case 50 years ago. Have a change in the family unit today. The family unit, the traditional mom and dad.
Yeah.
33% of all Americans are raised in single parent families.
Yeah.
What is this sign? Is this sign of migrating away from religion? Is it good? Is it good for the future of humanity, or does it have problems? Or what are you thoughts on this?
Well, see, I have a little bit of Marxism still left in me. Marx believed that the mode and relations of productions determine your culture and your feelings too. You know, so what happens is that, for instance, the feminist movement is always saying that women should be working same place as men and this and that, because we assume that somebody who works at home is inferior to the person who brings in the bacon. You know, so hypothetically, if the person who's minding the home, bringing up the children is given even a higher status than the guy who brings in the bacon, then we would not have this problem. But we don't think like that. So equality to us means women becoming the CEOs, presidents, and so on. And it's fine. I've seen certain families with husbands acting like wives do normally, and they're perfectly fine as long as this man is doing all the household chores and bringing the children up. So that's my point: is that So it's the modern relational production. My latent neo-Marxism comes out here. Yes, it is. We have assumed something like that. Women are more nurturing, and so on. We all know that, and you can't. If you take that away from them, we are getting away from that. Women are generally more spiritual than men. I'm going to make this statement. If you ask me how do I know, I'll just say it's my instinct. I really have not done a thorough research, but my overall impression at this moment is that women are generally more perceptive. They are generally more spiritual than men. Material. This is why they see that a lot of the women don't become CEOs. They're really just as good as men in the middle stages, but then they have children and say, oh, fuck this CEO. I'm sorry. This podcast, I can use that word. They say, screw this CEO stuff. I want to raise my children. That's much more important to me than becoming a CEO. Men are not like that. They have their ego to see that. I want to be the CEO. I don't care about my children. They can go do whatever they want. So that's
recognizing there's a cost to going out and not having at least one of the two parents spending time raising children.
Exactly.
Big social cost to the future of that child.
And the child has to understand spiritual values far supersede material values, because ultimate happiness is not going to come from being Elon Musk, and you can see he's a very unhappy man. Okay, Elon Musk is very unhappy. Look at his families. One child is transgender, one child died. He's divorced 3 times. Do you think he's a happy man? No, he's not a happy man. So why would I want my son to be like Elon Musk? No.
But it sounds like you're saying it takes a family of 2 to one working. You can't do it alone. If you're doing it,
you can have both people working, but somebody has got to take care of the children. I mean, take care means spend time with them, discuss them, talk to them, see what their problems are. You share your problems with them. You grow together emotionally.
So Pete Buttigieg's marriage, Pothole Pete, the Secretary of Education, his marriage is okay as long as one of them takes care of the adopted kids, is your point. Some adult.
Look, I know from being a tennis coach, one thing very simple. The person who becomes a great tennis player is a person who cares the most about it, is willing to put time, effort, sacrifice into it. That person will be a much better tennis player. Similarly, parenting is a business like that. If I'm putting all my effort in my child, look, I want her to do this, I want her to do that, I want her to learn math, I want her to learn tennis, I want her to do this, I'm spending extra time with them. That child will probably do better than a child where both parents are working, making $500,000 each per year, but not giving enough emotional support to the child. So this is a given. You have to, any project you have, the person who cares most about it, his project or her project will go further than the person who's half-hearted about it. So raising children is not a half-hearted issue. It's a full-time thing.
What do you think, Doctor, what do you think about children having cell phones and going on TikTok? And some kids are spending 3-4 hours a day. They're mesmerized by their phones. And there's been a number of articles written on the dangers of that to kids growing up. And there's also a number of kids that have suicidal symptoms that are teenagers, young teenagers. Do you think all this is related to what you're saying, a parent not being as present and raising that child, or what do you think about those things?
Well, you're talking about suicidal symptoms. I have had children, and you've had issues where the children have done it. One of our best students was Scott Levitt, and we're wealthy Jewish family, great kid, I loved him. I loved Scotty. He was having issues because of all these things. They sent him to Israel to kibbutz. He got married. Everything was fine. Then all of a sudden, 4 years ago, he committed suicide. So these things are happening. You and I both know that these things are happening. I've had issues also, but yes. Part of it you can call it genetic if you want to, but part of it is how we bring up our children. And I've taught tennis for 40 years. So I'm not a certified child psychologist, but I'll tell you, I have more experience in child psychology than any professional you know, because I deal with children and their parents day in and day out. 6 days a week for last 40 years. You know, I know, I can tell you, if I give a child a lesson for 4 or 5 times, I can tell you this child is divorced parent, this child has issues in the house, this child has both parents who are very harmonious. I can tell you after spending about 2 to 3 weeks with them, you don't have to help. So what you can understand, what I feel is that how this is a full-time project that we, Tony, you and I as parents, and now as grandparents, have to embrace and enjoy. Don't take it as a burden. You know, like you have a dog, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your dog is like your child. Okay, dog is like your child. He wants attention, or she, or whoever you have. We had a female.
Get him to shut up right now. My God.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
What an interruption. Anyway, go ahead.
I know it can be a pain in the butt, but the thing is that you want.
15 years old.
Oh yeah. So everybody wants attention. So if you give attention, your choice. You can think, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I come home. My dog wants me to take him out. I don't feel like doing it. But the dog, I mean, we had our dog, as soon as I come home, she'd start barking. Blah, 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 blah. And honestly, I took her out, no matter 4 feet of snow in the backyard, spent 20 minutes with her. She was not satisfied. Now it's up to me to consider that as a burden or that as a joy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me ask you, do you get to a point when, you know, I'm getting to the point now where I feel some urgency in my life that time is more valuable, almost more valuable even than money. And you know, I almost feel like I don't have time in my life to take a dog out and wait for him to take a shit.
Yeah, and any good activity can turn into a burden, you know. So that's true. Yeah, right. Yeah, it can turn into a burden, you know, like.
Yeah, because we only have a finite amount of time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
actually, you don't. See this. Yes, our physical being has finite amount of time, but let me ask you a simple question here. You live a life. I live a life. You're awake sometimes, you're asleep sometimes, you dream sometimes. But has there ever been a time in your life, whether you're asleep or awake, when Tony Crist did not exist? Has there ever been? So what makes you think that there will be such a time when Tony Crist does not exist?
Well, you know, we're going to pass away physically.
No, that's not my point. Can you visualize a universe in which Tony Crist does not exist? Or have a feel?
Well, from our frame of reference, no, because we've not known that time.
Okay, no, that's what I'm saying. So that subject that you are, Tony Crist, I am as Arun Jaitley, I know of no instance in my life in which I did not exist. So what makes me think there will be a time in the future that I will not exist? I understand physically my body is going to deteriorate because I've seen everybody else die. So however, see, this is the rationalist question, is how can I assume that there can be a universe without a Tony Crist? Because that's the only platform that you have. You don't have any other platform but Tony Crist platform. And you have never seen that platform abandon you. So now you're bringing in the material concepts of space and time and saying, well, these are my constrictors. Yes, they certainly are. But
you know, the physical bodies,
right.
Here, because we have years of experience seeing, you know, the physical body is going to go.
Yeah. But see, this is the whole thing, Tony, is the intrinsic, you know, like immanence and transcendence. Transcendence is still a little bit based on material world. Immanence is based on spirituality altogether. So it's based on spirituality. You can say spirit exists. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. He was only partially correct. It's not, I think, therefore I am. It is, I am, therefore I think. You know, it proceeds to thinking, comes afterwards. You know, existence comes first. You know, so that's what I'm saying. If you have, I mean, I have this concept, you know, reincarnation and all these theories. I mean, you know, you never know about those things. They're all theories, no proof of that. So, however, the thing that I think about, Tony, I believe in the existence of God as immanent and as well as transcendent. When I feel really low, I want a transcendent God. I want to sit down get down on my knees and pray to God. I do that. I normally get down and pray to the God is Saraswati, but whatever it is, her.
That's like a prayer, right? That's
yes. So I cannot conceive of a male God for some reason, because to me a female is more caring. So I would perceive God more in the feminine form than the masculine form. That's my preference, you know. So so what I'm saying is, at any given point, my rationalist being says I cannot conceive of the universe being without a subject. Therefore, I believe in God, and I also believe somehow in the immortality of soul. So I'm back to being a Christian, right? Right.
Dr. Jedley, you know, we're coming near the end. We got a few more minutes, but I want to continue this podcast next week.
Absolutely.
I'd like to throw something out next week.
Okay.
In Christianity, it's very basic. A Christian believes in free will. And that is a gigantic question. It affects politics, notion of determinism. It affects either we're free or we're not.
Okay.
St. Thomas Aquinas said, if one event can be self-determined, free will exists. Christians believe that because in order for them to lead a good life, a life, a good biblical life, and to go to heaven, they have to have free will to make choices.
Right.
And in other religions, in Islam and other religions, it's not treated the same. So we need to talk about that next week.
Absolutely. I'll read up to refresh myself from that, and I'll come talk to you. We'd love to do that.
Well, to do more, but this has been very enlightening. You know, we talked about the need to have family, the need of two parents, in particular of spending time with the young, and we didn't get into the fractured families today. Very many families are.
Very many.
And what it's doing, because it deprives that investment in the young. And then we talked a pretty long length about Buddhism and Islam and the other main religions, and how they similarly have a power greater than man, and how 85% to 87% of every does believe there's a power in man, and the point you made about humility. So we thank you so much. I'm about to say goodbye. We don't want to lose our viewers. And next week, we're going to talk about free will and determinism, and how it affects religion, and whether or not it exists. You know, that's a hard question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And all the viewers were helping.
And we'll do the same time. We'll be under Sunshine and Transparency. We will be on YouTube at 4:30. Please watch and let us know. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being with you, and hope to see you soon. Okay.
Yep. Next week. Bye-bye.